You're listening to the Unpenned Show with Paul and Andy, broadcasting live around the world. We believe freedom is free. It is enslavement that you're paying for. If you ain't mad by now, you're not paying attention.
I certainly hope so. Then welcome to the Paul Rippon and Andy Unpenned Show on a Tuesday evening.
It is. Good evening, Paul. Good
It's
evening,
absolutely
listeners.
fantastic to be here. We have a little bit of an echo, and I know exactly what it is, but we'll deal with that in a minute or two.
Okay.
All right, live on Awake Radio and live on Blog Talk at the same time.
That's it.
A dual cast.
A first.
A simulcast. And we are doing it live Tuesday, the
25th
of June 2013. This is our 2-hour slot to do what we can with what we can.
It certainly
Because
is.
our shows are designed, aren't they, to actually, in many ways, to wake up the very early people, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
You know, to actually to attract those that wouldn't be attracted in a way that, if we can, we do what we can. Just slot that into that little slot next to that one there for me, please. Into that one. It's just I can hear the echo off that one. That's it. That's it. That's more like it, isn't it? Okay.
Yeah,
I can hear
that's
myself. The second computer was echoing. Sorry about that, guys and girls. Here we are live Tuesday evening. Our shows are designed for those people in the very early stages of at least being curious.
Yes.
And a lot of people might say, you know, this. I've heard all this stuff before, and you're right. You have. You have, because I think a lot of people are guilty of forgetting where they started. You know, how did you get into this? What was it that got you started?
Yeah.
And what pricked your curiosity? Because you don't stay there, do you?
You don't know.
From that moment of intrigue, of curiosity, you gallop along quite quickly. And you get down some dead ends and some proper rabbit runs, don't you?
You do,
some
yeah.
proper mazes and some proper wild goose chases, some red herrings, as they say.
End of the world stuff.
But you have to do it because this is a global game of hide and seek.
Yeah.
It's always been hide and seek, hasn't it? You know, Jekyll and Hyde, that sort of thing, the dual personalities that pretend to be our friends when actually they're looking to benefit off us.
Yeah.
You know, they are the class above us. The ruling class always existed, probably always will exist. You know,
well.
for us to sit here in our little bedrooms here, it's a converted bedroom, but for us to sit here and pretend that we can change what has always been, it's a little naive, isn't it?
I think so.
It is, because the world you live in is not this big blue planet, is it? Okay? The world you live in is the little planet that you've created of people who circle about you.
Yeah. Your
Because
little world.
you circle them and they
Yeah.
circle you, and that is the world you live in. And if you can't change that world, if you can't successfully attract people like yourself to actually, you know, dance the dance with you, because that's what we do, isn't it? This is the eternal dance.
Yep.
The musical chairs. Which chair you're going to sit on next? It is, and we don't see it like that, but we should see it like that. Because if you think the same at 50 as you did when you were 20, that is 30 years of your life completely gone. Somebody's stolen that off you. The time machine that's
Yes.
called life. Because it is a machine, and it was here before you got here, and it'll be here a long time afterwards. This is your time. And if you don't use it wisely, you can guarantee somebody else will persuade you to hand it over to them.
Yeah.
Well, we're there, aren't we?
We are.
We work just over brooks all the time. And our time has been given to other people in return for what we think we need. And we surround ourselves with all the trappings of what we would call modern-day living and modern-day society. And really, if you look closely, what we've actually been doing is making our lives easier all the time. With automated this and automated that and remote control this. We've been determined to make our lives easier.
We've become more
lazy. But we haven't become more leisurely, have we? Because we have to work harder for these things that we need.
Yep.
So all these time-saving gadgets, all these labour-saving devices, well...
all they do is take up your time.
Well, yeah, but it's not quite that I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is, you've saved time doing this, but you're having to work harder because there's something else that you want.
Yeah.
And though I don't have the secret of happiness, I've learnt two things along my journey so far. One is that to stop wanting is a good start, isn't it?
Yes.
Actually stop wanting things.
Yeah.
Because it's your own life that you're spoiling by not having the things that you want. And start working on what you've got and what you need.
Yes, that's definitely
and the second thing is
a trick to
is
it.
Stop doing the paper chase. Stop the money chase. If you've actually got just about enough as you need, then you're doing better than most.
You're doing better than most, you're right.
Because
yeah.
you know, behind closed doors, there are tens, 20s, 30s, probably hundreds of thousands of people who halfway know that there's something really seriously wrong with the world. And I have a great stage and opportunity to actually engage people. I know it's just a little fish and chip shop, but it actually works. I get to speak to people for 2 and 3 minutes at a time. And because I have that little luxury that most people don't have, it gives me the opportunity to try and engage them. Now, I have downstairs on the shop on the wall in my shop, I have a number of canvas prints, don't I?
You do,
and
yeah.
wooden prints, and they've all got little Facebook sort of sayings on them, haven't they?
Yeah.
And they're all different. They're all sort of, some are more shallow, some are deeper, some have got double meanings, and I put them on the wall, and I tell people, once they look at them, I say, I put those on the wall to stop people talking to me about the weather. And more than half say, oh, right, yeah, I can see why you did that. It is rubbish, isn't it? And then they do it, and I say, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. Well, you're right, though, and then they do it again. And I say, don't do it. And eventually they'll start laughing at themselves, and they, yeah. And I say, which one's your favourite? Which is your favourite? Because that makes me want to ask you a question once you've picked your favourite. There's one on there which is about democracy, and there's another one there about an optimist. And, those are the two of the favourite ones, because there isn't a lot to read. The ones that have got the most to read, right, they don't get the favourite, they aren't the favourite ones. But it does allow me to engage people and talk to them. And I know our horror stories that we call newspapers are full of the worst kinds of people doing the worst kinds of things. And by virtue of that's all the stories are, we think that that is the way of the world. It's not. It really isn't, It isn't. Don't believe that there's not a massive number of people out there who, if they see you fall, will come and help you. Don't believe this rubbish. All right, because it is rubbish. Now, I know, yes, you're right, there is a number of people out there who will not, they'll actually step over you if you've fallen. But it's not as big a number as you think, is it?
No.
There's some lovely people out there, and I've struggled over the past 2 or 3 months in a way that I think I'm over the worst of it. And that is that I knew that I shouldn't see people less fortunate than myself. I knew I should not see people who are having to draw benefits. I shouldn't see them in the way that I'm being told to see them. And that is that if they won't work and they won't contribute, then why should I spend time with them? Because that's the divide, isn't it? That's one of the divide. And I do see people who can work and should work and could work, and they choose not to. I do see them differently. And I see them differently in a way that they've no pride for themselves. There's no real pride for themselves, because I still can't get over that hurdle that if you're sat home, perfectly fit, perfectly well, and choosing not to participate, that is your choice. I have absolutely no problem with that. But the pill that I'm having the biggest trouble swallowing is that you're stealing off somebody else to exist.
Yeah.
A hard-working family, by virtue of the biggest Ponzi scheme ever run, is paying you out to do that. And I still can't be okay with that. I still do struggle with it. I do. And the fact of the matter is that it's not going to last much longer, because you're going to get put on workfare.
Yeah.
And this is where you're going to be told that you're doing this job this week, this month, or whatever. And you're going to moan about that as well, and I don't blame you. But if you don't want to go on workfare and you're fit to work, then you know what your choices are. You do know what your choices are.
Yeah.
Because the most awful thing about this is that we live in a system of hierarchy. And this hierarchy, the people at the bottom don't want it to exist. And do you know why they don't want it to exist? Because they're at the bottom. Because they're at the bottom. Everybody above has got more. Everybody above has got what they want, which is why socialism is what they're always going to vote for. But they won't call it socialism, and they won't call it communism. It'll be communitarianism. It'll be a collective. It'll be all for one and one for all. It'll be this world is for us all to share. It sounds great. It's not going to work out like that at all. It's not going to work out like that at all. I mean, I know, listening to people on the internet, I do know that you can listen to some great speakers on here, and I am not going to pick on any individual and say they're wrong, because I'm going to say that I've heard these talks as well, and it sounds great. It sounds like, yep, we just have to get enough people to want this, and the change can be achieved. It's not going to work like that, okay? It's not going to work like that because it's never worked like that. It's never been like... The system that we have today is the system that always comes through every government throughout history. The government starts off with all the good intentions, but over time, it wants more for less. Over time, big business starts to get involved. It's called lobbying. It's bribing, isn't it?
Bribery,
okay?
yeah.
These scandals are not scandals, they're crimes, aren't they?
Yeah.
These people are committing crimes, and these people are above the law. It's obvious they're above the law, because they don't get into trouble. Otherwise they would. The banks are above the law. The ones that get involved in the biggest thefts get great pensions, and they're off into retirement.
Yeah, on the yacht.
Mervyn King, Fred Bloody Goodwin, Jamie Dimon, whatever. You know, these people that are prepared to commit the biggest thieveries, robberies, theft, the ones that get... Oh, well, I've been caught now. Anyway, thanks very much. Job done, everybody. Well done, everybody. Close the curtains. That's this show over and done with. Next show starts tomorrow at 9 a.m. Because that's what's going on, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
And how do we get these people who... Because they are lovely people. They're everywhere. But they've actually been subjected to an indoctrination system.
Mm-hmm.
And I've come to the conclusion this indoctrination system is so good now and so convincing with its lies that we think they're true.
Yeah.
We actually are okay with the money system, with the sham that is religion, with the history which is wrote by the victors, which means it cannot be accurate. It cannot be accurate. Okay? And the money system, the religion, the history and the politics, going through it all. We know politics is corrupt. History, believe it if you want to. But the longer I stay on this journey, the less history can possibly be true in the way that it's presented. It cannot be true. Not really. Not in the way that it's presented. This control system has been in charge for at least 4,000 years. And if you think we're going to turn it over a week on Sunday, I've got news for you. I got news for you. This feudal system that you're looking for, this abject slavery where we have nothing left but just what we need, it's here for many people. For many, many people it is actually here. And on that note, welcome to the show. So, broadcasting, dual broadcast. And both systems are, after a little hiccup on the wake, both systems are working great.
Yes, sorry about that.
It's all right.
I clicked the button, but it didn't seem to want to click on.
Anyway, it's working fine now.
It is, yeah.
My name's Paul, and I have sat in with me Andy.
My name's
and
Andy,
our little audience tonight is we've got Pete and Joe sat in the background there. So if we run out of beers, at least we're all right there, aren't we?
Yeah.
We do this every single Tuesday, a couple of hours at the very most. But these shows are edited and put onto YouTube, and 2 hours is a little bit too much.
It is. We found that. Yeah.
We generally find that the best thing to do here is just to accept that it's too much, and do about an hour and a bit, isn't it? That's sort of what we do.
Yeah.
So we do our hour and a half or so with a couple of 2 or 3 tunes in and our beer breaks. 2 or 3 different segments is what we actually do. We chat. We're sat in the middle of North Yorkshire. If you could see a map of the UK, from the top of Scotland to the very the dot that is Southampton, put a line, and we're about smack bang in the middle, aren't we?
Yeah.
We're about sort of 8-9 miles south of Menwith Hill.
Mm-hmm.
Would you say?
Yes.
North of Menwith
North
Hill.
of Menwith.
I'm upside down.
North of Menwith Hill.
About 8 or 9 miles north of Menwith Hill, which is technically about the centre of the country, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Hello, Menwith Hill, if
Hello,
you're listening.
Menwith Hill. I'm sure they're not listening.
No, I'm
sure they're not.
No,
The paranoia that we used to suffer, and we did used to suffer paranoia with this, didn't we?
Yeah.
We did badly used to suffer paranoia with this. And
designed to make you feel paranoid.
Yes, delighted that we're over that now. Because we've come to the conclusion that the system needs us, doesn't it? It actually needs us to do this.
Yeah.
Because we are the forward party. We are the people who bring back the very latest gossip, the very latest what's been happening on the battlefront. We come back and tell those that want to listen. So we're part of the pre-programming indoctrination of what the future's going to be like.
Mm-hmm.
So they need us.
They do.
They actually need us in a way that we never figured that out before, did we?
Yeah. Whether they need as many of us as they need, it's
well, how many is there?
That's debatable.
Let's get straight. How many are? Because
yeah.
Let's just check on something, shall we? Because from what I was listening to a radio station on Monday evening, right? And rightly or wrongly, doesn't matter. We're not interested in arguing. If you're still arguing, you've not got through the first bit yet, have you? But I was listening to a radio station 8:20 Monday evening, and they were broadcasting that they were the UK's #1 alternative radio station. Okay, so I had a look at a couple of figures. About 140 people following the shows, and at 8:20 on Monday evening, 6 listeners. Now, I'm not knocking that place at all. I'm not knocking the station, but let's stay in reality, shall we?
We have to.
Let's stay in a place called reality.
Yeah, there's enough dreaming going on.
That's right. Let's stay where we live, all right?
Mm.
Okay, now, if they want to promote themselves as the UK's #1 alternative radio station, go right ahead. Couldn't care less. Looking at their numbers live on Monday evening, that's what they had. So we have to face it. That's what we've got to work with. Now, I know there are plenty of people. Mark McGowan's one of them. Obviously, David Icke, Alex Jones, they all get some big viewing numbers. All right, so it does show you that out there is a lot of people interested in at least the alternative news, not the alternative theories, not the spiritual stuff isn't for us. The UFO stuff's not for us.
No.
Okay, these cures that may or may not be available. All right, we don't sell people false hope and false dreams.
No, we've stopped
because that's not fair.
No, we've stopped looking up to the heavens for
we
the
have.
answers.
So I'm not saying any of that is right or wrong. If that's what you enjoy, you go right ahead and enjoy it. All right. But we're saying that's not for us.
Nope.
All right. So you can by all means say, well, what you guys do is not for us either, and I'll say, and that's
fine.
great. We're absolutely fine by that.
Fine with that.
But the one thing that I have noticed is that very few radio shows are actually doing the news. They don't actually do the news, the north, east, west, and south of what's happening in the world and the country they live in. There are plenty of people doing interviews and re-recording interview after interview after interview with the big names. Good luck to them. Well done for giving up the time, because I know all the people involved give up their time for free. If you think there's money in this, it won't take you long to find out that there's no money in this at all. All right, there's no money, and a large majority of people who get involved, especially in the radio side of things, they have a slightly skewed vision of how it works. And I'm going to tell you how it works. I've only just celebrated a year doing this. But I'll tell you how it works. You research, you spend all week thinking about what you're going to say, you get on the radio and you don't say it, you're on your own, you're talking to the wall, and you're trying to put into words something that you've heard somebody else say. And it won't come out right. It doesn't come out right. Now, it's not that you're doing it wrong, it's that you're trying, but you're using somebody else's words. Only when you know your subject do the words come out properly. And only when you can do a show without a guest do you know that now you're confident. So well done to everybody for trying to do that, because it is terrifying. It is absolutely terrifying. So if you listen to some people who are just starting on the journey of presenting a radio show, do you know what? Don't leave an unpleasant comment. Don't be derogatory.
No.
Because
if you've not done it, if you've not had a go
if you're not prepared to do that, at least give them a little bit of thanks for the show.
Yeah.
Because if we deal with information like that, then we actually find that we don't need to argue with anybody. Because if somebody's saying something that you don't agree with, what right have you got to stop them? Because whatever you appear to think you can do, you've got to be prepared that they're going to do it back to you. I mean, do you remember in the early days, what was the first lesson we learnt about Radio Land? Can you remember what it was? I mean, we learnt lots, but do you remember the first one?
It was don't interrupt.
It was don't interrupt. And we listened back to the shows, didn't we? And we heard each other talking into each other.
Interrupting each other.
And when we had guests on, right, it wasn't going very well, was it?
No.
Because we hadn't learnt that very important conversational skill. Wait for the pause. And then you learn that little skill, and you come back into the real world, and you realise nobody waits for the pause, do they?
No.
Nobody waits for the pause at all. And
then the finger comes out.
yeah, the imaginary gun. The imaginary gun. Here's another bullet. Here's another bullet. Remember, bullets are called rounds.
Yes, they are.
Bullets are called rounds, okay? And the reason why bullets are called rounds is because, technically, in the language that we speak, we are boxing, aren't we? We're actually boxing. Now, people say, oh, what? Well, first of all, when we enter into conversation, we are talking about. All right? Now, what's a boxing match called? It's called a bout.
Yeah.
And when you get those fingers out, you're trying to score points in each round. That's what you're trying to do. Because that finger is a point that you're trying to make. And it's all part of the round, of the bullet you're trying to deliver, of the blow, of the shock, of the jab. Remember, vaccinations are called jabs and shots.
They are.
Well, what do you think vaccinations are called jabs and shots for? You think about it. A lot of people say, this language is like, it doesn't work like that, Paul. No, it doesn't work like that for you. But leave me alone. It works like that for me, because we're talking about taking jabs and shots and firing points to score rounds, okay? Because that's what we're doing. Now, we've done this before, because percussion is to strike, isn't it? Okay? And concussion is to have been struck. So what's discussion? Yeah, it's striking, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Because we are taking part in a boxing match. A gladiatorial, vocal boxing match. And people say, oh, you just made all that fit. Well, okay. You think I have. You're welcome to think that. But don't tell me I'm wrong. Because what bit can you prove of that I've just said is wrong? What bit can you prove is wrong? None of it.
No.
Because that's the language, weak age that you're using. And we deliver mess ages. Soldiers live in messes, don't they?
They do.
And they make a mess, don't they? A soldier's job is to blow things up and shoot people. I think I'd call that a mess, would you?
Or can be called keeping the peace.
Or bloody love bombing.
Yeah.
Right, first, drinks break.
And you have meddled with the primal forces of nature. And you will atone. Am I getting through to you, Mr. Beale? You get up on your little 21-inch screen and howl about America and democracy. There is no America. There is no democracy. There is only IBM and ITT and AT&T and DuPont, Dow, Union Carbide, and Exxon. Those are the nations of the world today. What do you think the Russians talk about in their councils of state? Karl Marx? They get out their linear programming charts, statistical decision theories, Minimax solutions, and compute the price-cost probabilities of their transactions and investments, just like we do. We no longer live in a world of nations and ideologies, Mr. Beale. The world is a college of corporations, inexorably determined by the immutable bylaws of business. The world is a business, Mr. Beale. It has been since man crawled out of the slime. And our children will live, Mr. Beale, to see that perfect world in which there's no war or famine, oppression or brutality. One vast and ecumenical holding company for whom all men will work to serve a common profit, in which all men will hold a share of stock, all necessities provided, all anxieties tranquilized, all boredom amused.
Absolute top music then from Mr. Pink Floyd. I do love that song. Welcome back to the show then, our second segment. And we still haven't done any news. How many news stories do you have?
We've got a plethora of news stories.
I actually feel like I'm in the movies, right, when they go to the psychopath's flat, right, and they get in... Don't laugh, you lot at the back, I can hear you. When they get in the psychopath's flat, right, and they get to his little private room, and it's covered with news stories across the wall. Yeah. It's like a psychopath's lair in here, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now, we talk about people not using the... doing the news.
Yeah.
And we try and make shows where people are very comfortable, right, to actually play this to the next door neighbour who's never heard any of this stuff before. So it may well sound a little bit like I've said at the beginning, you've heard all this before. Good, remember it, speak it, do it. All right? It's okay learning this stuff, but then you've got to this world of copy and paste is a world of copy and paste. Mm-hmm. All right, it used to be parrot fashion, didn't it?
Yeah.
Remember in the 70s, parrot fashion? Mm-hmm. Remember the now infamous Monty Python sketch about the dead parrot? We've talked about this on other shows, but not with Awake, have we?
No, not.
And I'm not sure if we've done it while we've been on YouTube as well, because this, as I said, this will be videoed into a YouTube clip tomorrow. And below that YouTube will be my Facebook, your Facebook, Phil, our VT Editor's Facebook. You can send any messages. Please feel free to make friends with us. We don't go online a lot, so it's not that we're ignoring you.
No, it isn't.
It's just that these couple of hours a week and a little bit of news sourcing for me is all that we actually do. Because I don't want to lose contact with the world that I really live in. Yep. The people that actually love me and I love them. And I don't mean love in a soppy way. I mean I'll actually do things for them that I won't do for other people. Because that's only a small definition of love. But I'll actually help them as opposed to other people where I'd say... I'll help you this once, but it's not going to be a given that I'll help you all the time if you don't help yourself. Because this is a trade, and we're not trading blows, we're trading with each other now.
We are, yeah.
Because this is business. All right, we called it a boxing match, okay? But you can either box with the gloves on, and blows and jabs and shots and fight and fall out and discussions all day, or you can actually come to a deal, a negotiation, a trade. Because all conversations should be seen as a trade. And you should always try and gain something. If you don't value your time, nobody else will. But they'll take it off you for free.
Yeah.
For sure. So how many news stories have we got racked up? Because it sounds like we're going to do the doom and gloom that I just talked about at the beginning of the show. That these are the things, these are the news to break us, isn't it?
Yeah, we've got about 26 stories.
This is the breaking news. All right, and it's designed to break us.
Yes.
It's designed to make us see the world in a very negative way.
Yeah.
And that is rubbish. But everybody believes it. You hear stories about what the nurses are up to, what the caring home staff are up to, about the corrupt police, the corrupt judges.
Yeah.
You never hear any stories about the good ones, do you? We never hear any good news.
Always get the doom and the gloom.
There is no good news agenda, is there?
No.
Now, is it because we like bad news? Well, I don't think we do. I think we like to know what reality is really like. Oh, it's all bad news, people say. Well, you're living in the wrong reality then, because it's not all bad news.
No, it's not all of it.
All right? If you want to live in a negative, bad news environment, go right ahead. The only person's day you're spoiling is your own and everybody you make contact with. That's not going to be the way to be healthy, wealthy, and bloody wise, is it?
No.
Or we should say why is. Because why is the word wise, really, just put together, isn't it?
Yeah.
So let's pick news story number one. You pick some on your side. And let's a little bit about why.
I just wanted to... that case in point, I just want to go with the Jeremy Hunt thing. BMA passes vote of no confidence in Health Secretary Jeremy Hunt.
Now, you don't like him, do you?
The British medical... It's not that I don't like him. I don't know him.
Yeah, but we don't like what he's doing.
But we don't like what he's doing, no.
He's
he's been told to do. What these ministers are put in place to steamroller things through, like Kenneth Clarke steamrollered the private courts in and all these kind of things. All these people are facilitators. And it's a good word that they like to use a lot now. I notice a lot of people's job titles, they've got facilitator in. But... when we were chatting earlier in the week, I know it's only Tuesday, but we were chatting yesterday. Because of the programming that we've gone through, from being you're taken away from your parents, aren't you, at age 5, and you go to the slave training camp, don't you? Which is school.
Of course,
And,
it is. Yep. They're built like jails now. The jails for children.
And of course, most schools are in the doctrine of the church, whichever church it is.
Especially primary schools.
And yeah,
particularly primary schools. They were usually built in church grounds, weren't they?
And the echelons that Jeremy Hunt's obviously schools he's gone to. We know that the Oxford and the Cambridge is the breeding ground. One's for the MPs and one's for the journalists.
The Ford for the Oxes.
Yes.
And the bridge for those that came and built
and
it.
The bridge, yes.
So they don't get the feet wet, do they?
No,
they don't get the feet wet. This is the shark's tail that we're living in.
Go over the water.
This is bloody the shark's tail, I'll tell you.
It is,
bloody Finding Nemo, my armpits.
But what I'm leading to there is we don't. These people that assume these positions of power, and that's all they do is they assume them. We give our power away to them. We've stopped asking the questions, and I just sat down and asked myself a few questions. Who is he?
Yeah.
Where did he come from?
Yeah.
Which school did he go to?
Oh.
Has he ever been a doctor? Has he ever mopped a ward? Has he ever? I mean, you look at him. I wouldn't even trust him to put a plaster on my finger. So.
Yeah, but isn't you're right with that one? But people, they don't connect dots up, do they?
No.
Now we've got a whole wall of news stories here, and it looks like the end of the bloody world, right? And that's the idea. Everybody's meant to think, if we don't go along and keep our heads down, all right, this is all going to collapse.
Yep.
Right, it's not. Okay, it's not going to work like that at all. This is the eternal SCS furniture sale, isn't it?
Mm.
All right? 4 times a year, they're having an end of season, never to be repeated, closing down possibly bargain sale.
Sale ends Sunday.
Yeah, and they're
don't
always
say which Sunday.
Yeah, but they're never closed down.
No, they don't. No.
This is the edge of your seat, real life movie. This your life is a moving image, and that's where the word movie comes from. All right, the film is the outside of the window. That's what you find on the outside of the window is the real life film.
Mm-hmm.
That's on your wind screen. All right? Because the duality of SEE and SEA is lost on most people. This is a land and sea, a fish and ships, a sun and water, a heat. That's what the system is.
Mm.
All right, that's what the system is. It's a duality. It's a water-based reality that we're now in. We can get deeply into that. I'm not going to do that. It's on the YouTube channel. Go back to, I don't know what it was. Just before Christmas, I think we put that one back up again, didn't I? Mm. The hidden meanings of the words that you use every day. All right, and I'm not going to repeat all that now, but it is a duality. We are living in a controlled system. We are more controlled than the computers that you're looking at.
Yeah.
Okay, the language that your computer was originally programmed in is basic, and that's what we've got. Okay, now we hear those above us speaking our language, but it's not. It sounds like it's our language, just like they call themselves servants, but they're not.
They're not. No.
You see, we know they're
not serving us anymore.
And I want all the people sat behind their doors this evening, panicking about the gas bill, panicking about the water bill, panicking about the NHS that's going to start charging us all in 2015.
Yep.
All right, which we spoke about this before.
The
news story's up there.
Yes.
If you can afford to pay something towards your health care over and above the 9%, 10%, 11%, 12% national insurance that you pay, all right, you're going to pay it.
You're going to have to
You're going to pay it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't stop there. It never stops there.
No.
It never stops there. I mean, if you're looking for a future that's going to take your house off you and empty your bank account, it's here. It's already here, but it's a creeping illness. It's called a cancer. And a cancer is an evil influence that spreads dangerously. It's not just the cancer that you're suffering from. 47%, 48, 49% of people are going to get cancer by the time we get to 2020. Mm-hmm. That's virtually 1 in 2 in the next 7 years.
This is what the forecast is.
Now, what happens when it gets to 1 in 1? All right? Do you think that they're going to come up with a cure? Well, I'm tempted to say they just might. Mm-hmm. They just might come up with a cure because that will empty your bank account. Because you will pay what you can to survive.
Yeah.
So I do think that a cure for cancer, which probably has existed for an awful long time, will come up in the future. And it'll be for you if you can afford it.
Yep.
All right? Now, it sounds like we live in a system that is trying to kill us. And it is.
It is,
right?
yeah.
Let's make no mistake about that. This system would like to see us clock off about 50 to 55 years old, please. All right? When your earning power is disappearing. They don't want you to work till you're 65, really. If we can start clocking off about 50 to 55 now, that means we can get some of the kids, the 1 million plus kids that are out of work, and we can do away with the 1 million plus pensioners that they were promised the pension would look after them after 65, and that's just a fairy story that hasn't come true either. So we can talk about these things, and it sounds like this is a talk down the pub that you could have had any time over the past 20 years. But we're not. We're doing it live on the radio. It's not down the pub, and you're listening to it on your own. The majority of people are listening to it on their own. And what we try and do is we try and give people something that they can take into regular conversation. Every generation is getting sicker than the last one. But here's the kicker. Here's the kicker that nobody actually really gets into. They tell us. They have to tell us. Now, if you had a number of children, if you're in charge of a number of children, we won't discuss the ages of these children, and you say to these children, look, if you press that button over there, okay, you're going to get a cracking electric shock. You're not going to do it, right? And you say, now, and the child hurts himself, and he learns not to press that button. Now, we get told in our newspapers that the food we're eating is jacked. All right?
Yep.
In the Fortune 500, there are around about 5 big pharmaceutical companies. Listen to the word pharma. Listen to the word big pharma. All right? Because we played the network clip, and we really are the animals. They say every man will have his stock and every man will have his share. Your denomination is not man. All right? You might go to the toilet that says man on the door. Right? In the real world of the judicial system, you do not have that denomination.
No.
It is on no forms. It has never been any forms. You are subhuman. You are a shadow man, a hue of a man. Right? You are not a man. Now, these wonderful people who are looking to save the whales and save the bears and save... Yep, that's great stuff. And the WWF and all the people involved, they will say that animals should have rights. Hard to fight against, isn't it? And eventually they're going to say that animals should have the same rights as humans. Well, that's what you asked for, wasn't it? Now, you might think, well, what's wrong with that? Well, I'll bloody tell you what's wrong with that. It's not animals that will have the same rights as what we're called humans. It's will have the same right as animals. And they have the right to cull animals. And once they can genetically alter us to be different to them, then we have become a subspecies. Now, this was talked about in 2006 on the BBC website, and they talked about in the next 1,000 years the human race will split into 2 species. I personally think they put one naught extra on there just to cover themselves, because I think in the next 100 years that's going to be very, very obvious. But they tell us. Just look at the Daily Mail. Now, everyone says the Daily Mail is a terrible newspaper. I don't know why. It just prints news stories for free. You don't have to bother with it, but it just gives you news stories for free. Now, we don't argue whether these news stories are true or not, because we don't know if they're true or not.
No.
But the one thing we do know is that lots of people read them. So we wait and see what people do after they've read them. And you read a story about Jeremy Hunt. Anybody up in arms about him? Anybody up in arms about the fact that he's sold off the NHS?
Yeah, sold it off.
The Death Management Service is now moving it into private hands. All right, this is public services being sold off into private hands in backroom deals. Okay, that we, you see, we don't get anything. All these wars, all these we get nothing. All right, I mean, I don't support war. But where's the bloody spoils? Where's the actual reward for us funding it all?
Yeah.
Nothing.
No, nothing.
All right, nothing at all. We don't get absolutely anything for this.
No, well, we get terrorism out of it, don't we?
We get dead.
Yeah, they tell us that's...
I mean, we never run out of money to bomb brown people. We never run out of money to bomb brown people. The borders are wide open. Right, if you want to make a rich country poor, just open the borders and let poor people in. And it won't take long. They'll lower the wages, they'll divide the cities, divide the towns, divide the villages, divide society, and the job will be done. The job will be done, and well done it will be. The unnerving part of this is that there's a large part, 20 to 30% of society, that knows exactly what's going on.
They do.
They know exactly what's going on, and they're absolutely okay with it. It is unnerving when you it's a sex control system. Let's change direction a little bit here. And by sex, I do actually mean at the lowest animalistic form that we are controlled by sex. Look at MTV, right? Look at all the pop music channels. Look at today's popular music. The kids are being indoctrinated into soft porn. And they are. Now, I think I said last week, I can't remember, but it's been confirmed that our 6, 7, 8, 9-year-olds here in Ripon are being taught sex education in the way that sex education is clear, the method is clear, the terminology, and the actual act itself is being taught to them. We're sexualising our young children. Why are the parents okay with this? Because the school teachers are. Now, there's a little story that I do want to follow, and is this the first or second one we've actually done this evening?
Second, we're on now.
We should be proud of ourselves.
We should.
Now, I can't find the one that I want, but it's about we've got the youngest school teachers in the modern Western world. We actually have the youngest primary school teachers. Now, isn't that appropriate?
Yeah.
We actually have the youngest primes, and there's something that I've actually... Just give us a little bit of a headline there. Let's get this headline through.
It says UK primary teachers amongst the youngest in the world. English teachers start their career with higher than average salaries. It's the OECD study found.
Yep.
Almost a third of UK primary teachers are under 30.
How old were your primary school teachers?
I would say a lot of them were in the 50s.
Mrs. South was mine.
Yeah.
Right, she was hard to tell because I was only little.
Miss.
Everyone knows Miss. No, we had a Miss. The juniors had Miss.
We had a few misses.
Right, the infants had Mrs.
Like
South.
Spinsters.
She must have been about 30 to 35. She wasn't 20-something, that's for sure. But the head teacher, Miss Booth, do you know, I can remember her car number plate. Isn't that the most amazing thing? It's coming to my head. She had a Triumph Herald, registration number SPY910H. Where the hell's that come from? Anyway, and she wore a wig.
All right.
She wore a wig. Now, this wig had seen some action. Right? And it moved. Cause, you know, older people, where they sort of dodder their head a little bit when they write. And she the chalk in the blackboard. I always think about school teachers, isn't it? Where do you stand? Where's the school teacher stand? Do they stand at the front so they can chalk the blackboard but they can't see the kids? Or do they stand at the back but can't chalk the blackboard? You know what I mean? Can't solve that one by a long chalk. But and she used to nod her head as she was. I mean, that she must have gone through gallons of chalk. Gallons. It's chalk mentioning gallons. She must have gone through loads of chalk because you could see her hand going. It was really drilling it in the blackboard. And anyway, the wig. Where was her?
Youngest school teachers.
Right, yeah, the youngest school teachers. But there is also a quote in that story about how much money, and it's almost 40% less we spend on education now than we did. I've circled that bottom line that I want you to pick up on, if you would.
In 2010, the UK had the second smallest share of public spending on higher education. 25.5%, down from 67.7% in
40-odd% drop in 10 years.
After Chile.
Yeah, I mean, we should be proud of ourselves. We're making our kids more stupid than ever. In 1997, this country proudly, and I think quite rightly, proudly stood.
And there's another round of cuts coming again, aren't there?
Round and round we go.
Round we go.
Round and round, every decrease in circles. But in 1997, this country proudly could claim that it was fourth in the world education tables. Now, the last one that I can remember was 2010 or 2011. Don't pick me up on it. It's one or the other. And we'd risen to the fine we were 27th to 43rd, depending on subject.
Yeah, I remember seeing that one.
Brilliant.
You did that in a previous show, I think.
27th to 43rd, maths and English.
Yeah.
Isn't that a wonderful, wonderful devolution?
It is, yeah.
Schools should be open to 6 p.m. to reduce the burden of childcare on working parents. Shall I just read the line below? New plans could see parents drafted in to run after-school clubs. Schools should be. You see, this is all the schools taking over what you used to do yourself.
Yeah.
Do you remember the bit they put? Remember they're trying to bring in a little law about you can't leave your kids with somebody that isn't family.
Mm.
Never mind the next door neighbour that has known since the day dot.
Yeah.
Right. And remember they tried to get them to be to get childcare checked. What's it called? That criminal check, that CRB.
Check, yeah.
Do you remember they tried to get all that, and everybody was like, "We're not having that. We're not having that." So that it quietly went away.
Mm.
Well, there's a little example of a victory that we can have when they try to push a little bit too hard. Schools should be open to 6 p.m. to reduce the burden of childcare on working parents. Doesn't that sound lovely?
Mm.
I think most parents will read that. I'll say fantastic. Next, they'll be giving them the tea, won't they? Then next,
They'll be putting them to bed.
I don't know yet. No, I think the actual taking them home and cleaning them up and getting them ready, but they'll be opening about 7 a.m., won't they?
Mm. Yeah.
So you'll actually just be you'll just be the cleaner, really.
Mm.
The kids are not going to see you as a parent, are they?
No.
In a way that parents would be seen. Along with the sex education that they're getting at a far too young age.
Yeah.
And the amount of time that they spend at jail, really, it's jail for children. The amount of time that they spend at school. How much respect do you think the kids are going to have for the parents? They're not going to see them as parents in the way that parents should be seen as the... that's who you ask, that's who you run to, that's who your protector is, that's who your provider is.
Mm.
That's who you bond with, that's...
Yeah.
But they're not going to see it like that, are they? And they don't see it like that now because you can tell. You can tell by the way that kids don't bond with the parents at all. I actually get them in here, in the shop, and it's almost like, 4 and 5 year old kids are actually running 3-bedroom houses.
Yeah, telling the mums and dads
because
what
they say,
to do.
look, I want that, and I don't want any of that, and I want some of that, and I want so-and-so on the TV, and I'm not going to bed early, and they're running 3-bedroom houses, and the parents, I loosely say parents, they're actually giving in to the kid. I didn't know a 4-year-old could run a 3-bedroom semi, did you? No. But is that 2 news stories?
Knowing what for 3, I think. Knowing what they want for tea and what time they're going to bed and what they're going to watch. And
now I'm going to play a little bit of a clip here, and we'll talk about it afterwards. Okay, and this is a dinner. It's an 80s film, and I think it's a dinner with I can't remember the guy's name, Alan or something like that. I'll put the clip up below the YouTube channel. But it's a higher consciousness. It's a conversation about higher consciousness. Have a little listen to this.
Why is that? Is it just because people are lazy today or they're bored? Are we just like bored, spoiled children who've just been lying in the bathtub all day, just playing with their plastic duck, and now they're just thinking, well, what can I do? Okay, yes, we are bored. We're all bored now. But has it ever occurred to you, Wally, that the process that creates this boredom that we see in the world now may very well be a self-perpetuating, unconscious form of brainwashing created by a world totalitarian government based on money, and that all of this is much more dangerous than one thinks, and it's not just a question of individual survival, Wally, but that somebody who's bored is asleep, and somebody who's asleep will not say no? See, I keep meeting these people. Just a few days ago, I met this man whom I greatly admire. He's a Swedish physicist, Gustav Bjornstrand, and he told me that he no longer watches television, he doesn't read newspapers, and he doesn't read magazines. He's completely cut them out of his life because he really does feel that we're living in some kind of Orwellian nightmare now, and that everything that you hear now contributes to turning you into a robot. And when I was at Findhorn, I met this extraordinary English tree expert who had devoted his life to saving trees. He just got back from Washington, lobbying to save the redwoods. He's 84 years old. He always travels with a backpack because he never knows where he's going to be tomorrow. And when I met him at Findhorn, he said to me, "Where are you from?" And I said, "New York." He said, "New York, yes, that's a very interesting place. Do you know a lot of New Yorkers who keep talking about the fact that they want to leave but never do?" And I said, "Oh, yes." And he said, "Why do you think they don't leave?" I gave him different banal theories. He said, "Oh, I don't think it's that way at all." He said, "I think that New York is the new model for the new concentration camp, where the camp has been built by the inmates themselves, and the inmates are the guards, and they have this pride in this thing they've built. They've built their own prison, and so they exist in a state of schizophrenia, where they are both guards and prisoners, and as a result, they no longer have, having been lobotomized, the capacity to leave the prison they've made, or to even see it as a prison." And then he went into his pocket and he took out a seed for a tree and he said, "This is a pine tree." He put it in my hand and he said, "Escape before it's too late. See, actually, for 2 or 3 years now, Chiquita and I have had this very unpleasant feeling that we really should get out. That we really should feel like Jews in Germany in the late 30s. Get out of here. Of course, the problem is where to go, because it seems quite obvious that the whole world is going in the same direction. See, I think it's quite possible that the 1960s represented the last burst of the human being before he was extinguished, and that this is the beginning of the rest of the future now, that from now on there'll simply be all these robots walking around, feeling nothing, thinking nothing, and there'll be nobody left almost to remind them that there once was a species called a human being, with feelings and thoughts, and that history and memory are right now being erased, and soon nobody will really remember that life existed on the planet. Now, of course, Bjornstrand feels that there's really almost no hope, and that we're probably going back to a very savage, lawless, terrifying period. Findhorn people see it a little differently. They're feeling that there'll be these pockets of light springing up in different parts of the world, and that these will be, in a way, invisible planets on this planet, and that as we, or the world, grow colder, we can take invisible space journeys to these different planets, refuel for what it is we need to do on the planet itself, and come back. And it's their feeling that there have to be centers now where people can come and reconstruct a new future for the world. And when I was talking to Gustav Bjornstrand, he was saying that actually these centers are growing up everywhere now. And that what they're trying to do, which is what Findhorn was trying to do, and in a way, what I was trying to do. I mean, these things can't be given names, but in a way, these are all attempts at creating a new kind of school or a new kind of monastery. And Bjornstrand talks about the concept of reserves, islands of safety, where history can be remembered and the human being can continue to function in order to maintain the species through a dark age. In other words, we're talking about an underground, which did exist in a different way during the Dark Ages among the mystical orders of the Church. And the purpose of this underground is to find out how to preserve the light, life, the culture, how to keep things living. You see, I keep thinking that what we need is a new language, a language of the heart. Languages in the Polish forest where language wasn't needed. Some kind of language between people that is a new kind of poetry. That's the poetry of the dancing bee that tells us where the honey is. And I think that in order to create that language, you're going to have to learn how you can go through a looking glass into another kind of perception where you have that sense of being united to all things, and suddenly you understand everything.
A very interesting clip. Now, it sounds a bit new agey, doesn't it, towards the end there? But in the middle there, what they're talking about is these pockets of light, and we can visit these pockets of light. You could say that might be the internet, couldn't you? It might be the actual internet we have today. Mm. And although that clip does get a little bit, I say, new agey for me, it's not that it's wrong, is it?
No.
I mean, okay, it gets flowery, but it's not wrong. It isn't wrong. We think this is the cutting edge of technology and reality. We think we're living in the best times ever.
Yep.
There's very little evidence of that. Now, what we have had to do, they've had to give us, is a living standard that is similar to those. That we have a house and they have a house, and we have a car and they have a car, and we have a holiday and they have a holiday, and we used to have a pension, and they still got one. But the differences are enormous, because yeah, we've got a version of all those things, but theirs is much better. Right. Now, this illusion of them being servants is over now, isn't it? If you still believe they're servants, well, you shouldn't be listening to this show, because this will give you nightmares. This will give you nightmares. You shouldn't be on here at all. This is not for you at all. Your numerical age is of no interest to me. All right? If you think they're servants, then you've either got an awful lot of money, or you're the most naive person that I've met just recently. Mm. Because this illusion is coming to an end. We do live in a duality. Everything's got its equal and opposite. Always has. But the singularity that they talk about. I don't exactly know how it's going to manifest, but I do know in one way that it's going to manifest, and that is that there'll be one set of rulers and one set of rules, and you'll get two choices as usual: do as you're told, or get nothing. Now, we spoke earlier on in the show about those people that at the moment who are comfortably doing nothing. They're fit, they could do something, and what the most of those people that I know that I'm thinking of, and I've got three in mind, they sit home and spend the time in Neverland, the internet.
Yeah.
And they claim that their time is well spent on the internet. We've been doing this for a while now, haven't we? This global awakening, what evidence you seen? What evidence you seen?
Well,
Just me and you on this little group here, really, isn't it?
yeah.
Now, we went down
5 years and the Bilderberger meeting.
We
of
went down
course,
to Bilderberg, didn't we?
which was disappointing for the numbers.
We went down to Bilderberg. Now, we're not going to be popular for saying this, are we?
No,
But we're not here for that.
we're not here. No,
This isn't
not-
the popularity contest
so
as
we're
far
not
as
in
we're
it for a
concerned.
popularity contest. No.
Go on, you say it. And I don't worry, I'm not going to leave you behind on this
No,
one.
no, that's all right.
You say it. What did you feel when you went and you sat and you listened, and we had speaker after speaker after speaker, and it was a pleasant afternoon, the sun was shining,
Well,
it was a lovely afternoon, but what did you feel?
I felt a little bit disappointed in the numbers that were there, because it was the main day was Saturday, and then you start making excuses for yourself. Well, we've only come down on a Saturday. It has been for the 4 days, but then you thought, well, if people have come down for the 4 days, and people did camp and stay there for the 4 days, and I still thought, well, if there's 4 days of people here, there's still not a lot of people, and I do know we're under pressure because they only gave us a little field, but there was still room in the field, and the word on the street was that they had actually closed the entrance and they weren't letting anybody in. And I know myself and Joe nearly got trapped outside in that. We thought we weren't going to get back in.
But what did we feel when we were sat in the crowd?
We felt at one point there was an overwhelming sense that something was going to happen.
There was.
There was a quietness. It only lasted for maybe
2 or 3 minutes.
Yeah.
But there was a real
Well, if
air.
that,
There was a
I would
real
have said
air
probably
of like, what is happening now?
Yeah,
And it lasted just a couple of minutes, but we all felt it, didn't we? Three of us, we sat and we said, what's changed?
Yeah,
What's changed? All of a sudden there was a paranoia,
There was.
a nervousness. God Almighty, someone could kick off here, and then it went. But you
it
know what I
did,
mean?
it lifted.
You're skirting around the subjects, right? You want me to do it, don't you? All right, let's go with it then. Michael Meacher MP was up there, yeah?
he was.
Michael Meacher came. Don't know the guy. He did stand up in Parliament the day after, and he said his piece, and he challenged them what they were doing at Bilderberg. Reveal it, or we'll guess you were up to no good. If you won't tell us what you were doing, then you're up to no good. You went in your official capacities, and yet you won't tell us. You're just giving us a version of we just chatted. It was a private, informal
private
meeting.
chat box.
Right. Well, we're paying the bloody expenses, right? You're called servants. What you been up to? Because we've got questions. Well, they didn't. Anyway, Michael Meacher did his bit.
He did.
So he said he was going to do that, and he has. Let's see if he gets more involved with us over time. Let's see if he is an ally in the camp. Let's see if he is playing both sides.
Yeah.
It's not Michael Meacher that I'm trying to tell you about here. It is the crowd were mesmerised by an MP.
They were mesmerised.
There was
by
no
him, yes.
question in all three of us. We said,
They were clapping
these
and cheering
people,
him.
this is just an election speech he was
It
giving.
rhetoric.
It was absolute BS.
It was.
And 90+%
Yeah.
were facing forward, listening carefully,
And applauding.
and applauding at the right
and
places.
cheering and it
This is an enemy in the camp
it was, yeah.
who's come,
Who'd had
who's-
his chance.
Yeah.
He's an old man. He's been in
You know,
been an MP for a long time.
Let's get this straight.
Yeah. What?
All right. I mean, it's great that we talk about infiltration. We talk about what the government spy agencies get up to, and we never once think, well, it's to watch us. Of course, it's to bloody watch us. The one thing that keeps them awake at night is, guess what? That we might think of something they haven't. We might actually say something and achieve something that they weren't expecting.
Yeah.
Because they're scared to death that we'll create something that will go viral, that we create a virus that infects everybody, and all of a sudden, the position's changed.
Yeah.
They can't imagine what it is, But look at the efforts they go to listen and watch us. We got, I mean, let's go through it in this house now. 1 computer, 2 computers, the bloody Mac, mobile phone, TV in that room, right? Mobile phone in that room. Okay, telephone in that room. Street lamp out bloody side, just for starters. The Sky box, right? The Sky TV box. Look at the effort they're putting in to actually monitor us all the time. And I know it's keywords. And I know those smart meters, when those smart meters get in, they're almost the last piece of the jigsaw for connecting the entire Wi-Fi system together.
Yep.
So this Wi-Fi system that is now surrounding us through telephone masts and every other bit of kit, including your washing machine, your tumble bloody dryer, your fridge and your freezer, all now plugged in to what is a lifetime spy grid.
Yeah.
Why would they go to such an effort to build that? Because they are terrified we'll figure something out that they haven't figured themselves.
They are scared of us. I mean,
of course they're scared of us.
They surrounded themselves with steel and police cordons and a moat and everything.
That's all part of the
police
game,
helicopter
but that's all
flying
part
round.
of the game, isn't it?
Yeah.
That was all part of, look how powerful we are. Look at you peasants in the fields.
Yeah,
and we even put you in the corner of a field. We didn't give you a bloody field, we give you a little triangular corner.
On the grove, it was
on
called.
The grove,
and
it was
another
called.
name for a grove is the plantation.
Exactly.
And I said, we're the slaves on the plantation here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We need to stop overplaying our hand
We do.
in the way that it doesn't work. Now, I've been to a number of protests. Did I go to protests? No. I went to see who was there. And let's finish off this Bilderberg. We've done this before, but we haven't gone this deep before.
No.
Too many of the people there bought into
The
Michael
MP.
Meacher MP.
They did.
They bought right into it. They should have been, Mr. Meacher, we got questions.
Yeah.
Now you're here, we want to interrogate you. But no. He got centre stage and everybody was staring at him. He should have said, guys and girls, I'm from the enemy camp.
Yeah.
And I've brought something to make friends with you guys.
I've sat on the benches. What
He
questions
brought
have
nothing.
you got me?
He
Yeah.
brought nothing at
No,
all.
he didn't.
He looked like an out of its depth old man that was making a last
And an-
bloody ditch attempt
and an ill-fitting
for
suit.
something. Yeah, and
Yeah.
it was an ill-fitting
It
suit
was,
as well.
yeah,
But we shouldn't
yeah.
do that. But it was.
No,
It just looked a dishevelled old MP
Yeah.
who slightly lost his bloody way and was a bit upset that he wasn't actually in the
he was-
hotel.
He was actually upset that he wasn't. Yeah, he hadn't
That's
been
re-
summoned.
That's
to-
really what
to
it
go
felt
and
like,
see
wasn't
them.
it? That's
Yeah.
really what it felt. And his
Yeah.
conversation and a couple of quip remarks confirmed
It did.
that if he'd been invited, right,
He
he'd have
would-
been bloody
he'd
in
have
there.
gone, yeah.
We need to learn. We need to learn. Right, there is nobody going to help us.
No.
This is the awful shock
It
that
is
we
that
haven't
awful
and
shock,
refuse to learn. Nobody is going to come and help us. They're not interested in
I'm
helping
not
us.
interested in helping you. No.
Right, those that have got more than we have got more than we have, and they intend to bloody well keep it.
They're trying hard to hang on to it.
Exactly.
Because you and
They're
I know
looking-
they're going for them first.
Well, they're looking forward to the workfare placements.
yeah.
Because they want you working for free while taxpayers are bloody paying your wages. This is straightforward slavery, paid for by us.
Yeah.
And still we sit quiet. The boiling frogs quietly chatter. Yeah, but it's not chattering because we're cold. Yeah, you usually chatter when you're bloody freezing. The water's boiling, and we're still chattering. We might as well be dead. We might as well actually be dead, you know, really.
Yeah.
When they see us as the dead, the living dead, and they portray us in film after film after film as zombies,
Zombies, they do.
they're right, aren't they?
Yeah.
They're actually right. Now, I know I'm not blaming these people. I'm not blaming these people. But by God, it's hard to wake the dead, isn't it? Waking the dead is hard, but it can be done. But you've got to do it slowly. Now, I've heard one or two comments. We talked about this last week. A few comments, and there was one guy in particular who took me on, and then, you can't do that, you can't do that, you can't do that. Well, you can tell me whatever you want, but don't say I can't do it. Because whatever comes out of your mouth is what you can't do. When you say you can't wake people up, you ain't talking about me, because you don't know me. You're talking about yourself. So stop using the word you when you should be using the word I. And then ask yourself why you can't wake them up. Because you're the one with the problem. You're the one that's home alone. You're the one that hasn't got anyone to help you. You're the one that hasn't actually engaged in the real world. Because you can't come off this time-stealing machine and go preach what's in here to the dead. Because they'll laugh at you. I've listened to something on the internet about a guy who says, whatever, it's an outrageous claim. And you say, look, it sounds genuine. And I said, have you met him? Well, no. Where's he from? Canada, Australia, wherever he's from. The people in reality say, well, how do you know? You want me to come and listen to somebody who you've never met, you don't know, and you can't tell if it's true? And Google plays its part, doesn't it?
It does,
because Google plays a perfect part. Because what Google does is, it knows you now, because it's been in your house for a long time. Google knows who you are.
It knows what makes you tick.
Yeah, it's all clicks and ticks. It's tick-tack, which is tactic. Okay, this is gameplay. We're in game now. We are in the game. This is the game, and the game is the internet. And if you don't realise you're in the net and you need to get out every now and again, then you're going to stay in this net and it'll get tighter and tighter and tighter until it turns into a web. And then the web is spiders. And the web built by a spider is a kill grid. That's all it is. Where was I?
We lose the thread. I haven't written it down either this
Where
time.
was I?
So
Where was? Oh, about it's about. You see, you can't wake people up. It's because you're a rubbish teacher. Get over yourself. Okay, to teach a class of children to know something and know it well, you're not going to do it in one conversation, are you? You're not going to do it in like one side of A4. You're not going to. If you say to adults, "You're stupid. You're stupid. You should know this," they're going to say, "Well, thanks very much, and I've enjoyed talking to you." Really? Isn't the basis of people's ignorance, and it is ignorance, and I don't accept ignorance as a good excuse nowadays, is the basis of the ignorance, is it not knowing the money system? Because going right back to the start, which is how we started this show, did we forget what woke us up? Because it was a combination of 9/11, why we're giving money to the banks,
yeah.
and how's this money system work? How could you be too big to fail? I said right at the beginning in 2008, if they give everybody in the country 50 grand and let them pay it off at £5 a week, that 50 grand would end up back in the banks, so the banks would then be solvent. We would be able to reduce our mortgages, so we'd have more money to spend in the economy. That's what I said in 2008. 4 years later, I read an economist saying the same thing. I was quite proud of myself. But I couldn't understand why we were bailing these banks out. I thought, I don't know how this works. I can't work this out. How come we have to give them our future taxes to fix their problems? No one's going to bail my chip shop out.
No.
And
I didn't bail my business
So
out.
I sat down and thought, I need to learn how this works.
Yeah.
And I did. It was the money system. And the simple fact that they don't print the interest, do they? And they don't print the interest because it's designed to bankrupt us all.
It is, yeah.
It's designed to bankrupt us all. Why do we do this, fella?
Good question. Because we have to.
But why do we have to?
Because if we weren't doing this, what would we be doing?
We do this, and we don't worry about what other people think. And why don't we actually worry about what other people think? Because that's not for us to worry about.
No, that's up to them to worry about.
They can think and worry about whatever they want.
I've got enough.
And if they think we're bad guys,
stuff to worry about.
If they think we're bad guys, they can think that. And if they think we're good guys, thanks. Let other people know that we're doing a bit. But why do we really do it?
Just, it was our way of leaving something behind. And hopefully the researchers in the future, or the people that want to find this stuff, can go back and listen to it and say, oh yeah, they sort of get what they're talking about now.
When we do the language decode, which we don't do very often now because we've done it in many shows before, we can do it whenever you want. You know, we call it a sex control system, and have a little think about that. I know you'll say, oh, what, that sounds rubbish. The word six, S-I-X, in Latin is the word S-E-X.
It is.
Okay, six and sex is the same control system. Now, I know you're looking at the numbers 36 and 666, and it's all over. They play the part.
Play the games.
They play the game. They actually, they divert us and distract us. And yes, the next level up, they actually work the 666 game as well with their OK signs and that sort of thing. This is all a show. It's all a show for you to discover if you want to.
Yep.
And it is so complex, but yet simple. It is so hidden, but not very deeply, that you'll get up every day and you want to learn another part of the detective. You're the detective, and you go online to detect it, and I found something else, and I found something else. How many stairs you got in your house? Oh, I don't know. You're not a very good detective, are you? You're not really. Why have you got 13 steps on your stairs? Why have you got a landing light at the top? Why are doors 6'6" high? Yeah, you don't know any of those answers. You don't know. It's called a landing light. Why is it called a landing? Well, you have a think about it. We'll tell you next week. But why do we do this? The pen is mightier than the sword. Put together the word pen is. Oh, it's not.
Can't be that.
Everything is connected. It's just you can't see the connection. Everything is the spider's web. It's always been the spider's web. The spider sits in the middle and can feel every strand, every vibration, and they've built a system to do it for the entire planet. Why do we do this? Because for the first time, really, we can leave a vocal and eventually a visual history of what we tried to do, how we thought, who we were, and what we were.
And what mistakes we'd made.
Oh, yeah.
Made plenty of them.
Listen to what we're doing. You'll hear the mistakes. You'll hear us shouting and bawling at the system 12 months ago. But doing a radio show really pushes you along the journey. And it's my journey and it's your journey. And it's not the same as everybody else's. And when you find somebody who's properly awake, and I mean properly awake, a lot of people who claim to be awake are still living in a nightmare. If you're living in a nightmare, it's because you're not. You haven't woken up yet. If the world's terrible and it's a horror story, and it's because it's a nightmare. You're not fully woken up. This was always here. The fact that you've discovered it, and then you've stopped halfway through, is the very problem that you're going to have to live with now. Because this system was here long before you were. And a version of it will be here a long time after.
You've gone, yeah.
And if we are shouting and bawling and swearing and cursing and blaming at the system, it's because we're not very clever, really, are we? Because this system said, you got free libraries, it will get you any book you want. Those that show talent, we will support you in further education. Yes, I know that's all been removed a little bit now, but it's only recent, isn't it? The number of people who are listening to this show now, I guess, are probably over 25, 30. You've had your chance, haven't you? You've actually had your chance to educate yourself to a good standard, to actually learn to play this game called life. And if you're not very good at it, whose fault is it? Because if you haven't got to the problem that is your life, then you haven't discovered yourself yet. Because once you do discover yourself, you say, it's me. It's me that's caused all this. Me and my ignorance has caught me out, and here I am today. Collectively, it's been done to us all individually.
Yeah.
If we don't manage to attract enough people to at least consider that there is another way, then there won't be another way. The controllers will have their way, and it will be whatever they say it is. And that's not a future I want to leave for my kids.
No.
Because that's why we do this. We leave a record, a visual, vocal record of who we are and what we tried to do.
Yeah.
And we didn't sound like nutcases, and we didn't go off half-cocked, and we didn't make claims that we couldn't back up, and we tried not to argue with anybody along the way.
No.
And if you can get that calmness in your life, then the rough seas that you've been suffering, it's over. Now you're floating. Now you've actually got, you're not drowning, you're not kicking, you've actually got to float. Now you've got to build your ship, and the things that you buy for your sail, make sure they've got some value and energy. Because if they haven't, you'll just be a little dinghy going round in circles.
Yeah.
That's the language, and that's really what the whole thing they've built. This is the maritime. Marry being sea, and time being your energy.
Maritime in character.
Maritime in character. The persona was the vehicle that they got you here with.
Yeah.
and everything that we do is shipped. Shipped to shore. You even sit on the sand in a deck chair, and still we wonder. The pen is mightier than the sword. But what is that pen is? It's actually your will.
Yeah.
It's actually your sword. It's your will. It's your... we call it a willy, don't we? But listen to the word. Will he? Will you or won't you? Be proud of yourself for trying. And don't be upset if it doesn't work first time.
No.
Because apart from skydiving, keep trying.
Keep trying, yeah.
And on that bombshell, we shall say to everybody on Awake Radio and Blog Talk Radio, thank you very much for listening.
Thank you for listening.
That is another Tuesday concluded. All the links that we talk about will be below this YouTube video, which will be on YouTube tomorrow. Your Facebook, my Facebook, Phil RVT Editor's Facebook, the Awake Contact. Let's just make contact and share things of value.
Yeah.
Things that actually matter. All right? 4 news stories. Is that the best we did?
That's all we did.
Look at the headlines.
26.
Look at all these headlines.
You could say we're ambitious.